I don't think anymore that Peter was crucified on the cross, let alone crucified upside down. Partly because in crucifixion, somebody was stripped naked to shame and humiliate them. But in the Gospel of John, I don't know how I missed this. It says that he would be taken where he did not want to go and would be clothed by another. Well, that's exactly what doesn't happen in crucifixion. Now, of course, John says an indication of how he would die. So he still died as a martyr, I believe, but I'm leaning against him being crucified.
Okay, and for the common Christian, the normal Christians out there, what you just said about Peter not having died upside down on a cross, that just seems like common knowledge among Christians. So is that
Yeah.
something that tradition has taught us, or we've kind of just assumed it as we read the Bible?
Yeah, if somebody asked me for years how Peter died, I would have said he died crucified upside down because he considered himself not worthy to die in the manner of Jesus. Well, let me just ask you a basic question. Do you think the Romans were in the business of asking people how they wanted to be crucified and then following their requests? Of course not. That's the opposite of what crucifixion was. So, yes, it appears in church history. If I remember correctly, it's around the 3rd century. And then other church historians start talking about it. It might even be the 4th century. So it's not in any of our earliest sources at all. And I think, what a number of scholars that I read would say is so actually, let me take a step back. The Acts of Peter, which is the end of the 2nd century, this apocryphal account, does have him being crucified upside down. But the story is not that he considers himself unwilling and unworthy like Jesus. Rather, the world has been turned upside down. So as Peter is upside down, he can actually see the world as it really is. And his death, kind of like Jesus' death, but in a different fashion, will help turn the world right side up. That's one way of taking, I think, arguably a more plausible way of taking the earliest source we have, end of the 2nd century, and then later church historians, 3rd and 4th century, start picking that up as being historical. So I'm not even convinced he was crucified, let alone crucified upside down, but I do believe he died as a martyr. We have multiple sources for that, and very few people question that account. Now, by the way, this is surprising to folks who haven't followed this. This is what happens when we start to study the apostles. There's a lot of stories we've been told, but we've never really examined them, myself included. That's a part of what led me into this journey was like, wait a minute, I've heard that Bartholomew was skinned alive. Is that really true? And then you start to probe the data, and the earliest source I could find is like 500 AD. That tells me it's not necessarily false, but our evidence that happened is pretty late.